Let's go ahead and get started. I'm assuming that we'll have people continuing to log in. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I'm Jeffrey Trzeciak. I'm the director of the Jersey City Free Public Library. Very happy that you could all join us this afternoon. This is the inaugural event for the Urban Library Leaders Program that is co-sponsored between the Jersey City Free Public Library and the New Jersey Library Association. Again, this is our first time doing this, first time doing a webinar using Zoom. So please bear with us. We had a couple of minutes to check out the technology before starting, but who knows? But we're living in a time now where we have to be flexible and do some things on the fly. So hopefully everything will go smoothly, but if not, hang in there with us and we'll get it solved quickly. Very happy that we're able to sponsor this event. And very pleased that Shamichael Hallman is able to join us. Thank you for joining us this afternoon and for being our first speaker in this series. I'll do a brief introduction and then we'll get into the program. Shamichael currently serves as the manager of the historic Cossitt Library in Memphis, Tennessee. As part of the Reimaging the Civic Commons initiative, the library is undergoing a multi-million-dollar renovation. Reimaging the Civic Commons project is a national initiative with projects in 10 U.S. cities. It seeks to revitalize and connect civic assets. Located in the heart of downtown Memphis, the library is being designed to adapt to the ever-changing needs of the community. He also serves as the community engagement coordinator for the RCC work that is happening in Memphis, where his responsibilities include mobilizing, organizing, and building a base of community support. Through volunteer recruitment and training and development of community partnerships at the corporate, institutional, and civic levels. Heavily involved in civic engagement activities, he has planned and hosted conferences, dinners, and programs across the city and has spoken at events across the world. Shamichael serves on a number of nonprofit boards in Memphis and was recently named with a 40 under 40 honoree by the Memphis Business Journal. He is currently in the executive program in social impact strategy at the University of Pennsylvania and will begin graduate studies at their School of Social Policy and Practice later this month. So welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Just want to say, thank you so much, Dr. Trezak, for this invitation. A big thank you to the Jersey City Free Public Library and New Jersey Library Association for the wonderful opportunity to be a part of this Urban Library Leader Series. And I certainly don't want to go any further without saying thanks to my wonderful leadership team here at the Memphis Public Library System. Ms. Tony Browswell is our Southwest Regional Manager. Chris Marjolek is our Deputy Director, and Kenny McCloy is our Director. And without the support of these folks, it would not be possible for me to be with you today. It is indeed a great honor to be with you and to share with you a very small piece of the wonderful work that is happening with the Memphis Public Library System. For the last 3.5 years, I've had the opportunity to manage the historic Cossitt Library. The library is situated in the heart of downtown Memphis. It has wonderful views of the Mississippi River. If you're ever here, you've got to come. Let me show you this library. Let me show you the wonderful views that it has. It is our city's first library. It dates back to the 1890s, and it has a very, very rich history, serving as a key site for many pivotal moments in our city's history, such as local efforts to desegregate the library system in the 1960s. Since about the middle of 2016, Cossitt has been a part of a concerted effort on both a local and a national level to demonstrate that transformative public spaces can connect people of all backgrounds together, that they can cultivate trust, and that they can create more resilient communities. Nationally, this effort is known as the Reimagined the Civic Commons. It's an initiative in a learning network of 10 cities making strategic investments in public spaces. In Memphis, this work is focused on creating a set of connected, thriving civic assets that become places where citizens from various backgrounds who might not normally meet or come together will come together. And Cossitt is one of those assets. We are now in the midst of reimagining and renovating this branch. And as Jeffrey said earlier, this reimagined branch is really seeking to stand on this very long-standing tradition of serving the needs of local Memphians. But then we want to build on that. We want to build on that very, very strong foundation. established on the ideas of providing free and open access and recorded knowledge and information, the library is expanding its mission to serve as an active and engaging community resource. And we're taking an experiential approach to learning. We recognize here in Memphis that there's a diversity of talent, and we want to do the types of things that support that great talent that we have in the city. So we are designing and creating a space that will facilitate and engage the creative arts and dance classes, technology and programming workshops, lectures and discussion series, community-led art installations, performances, and more. And the library has been designed and it is being built in a way to adapt to the ever-changing needs of the community. The spaces we are doing in a very flexible way so that we can accommodate a variety of diverse neighborhood endeavors. And I'm really, really excited about it. I want to do a couple things today. I want to first show you how this work is currently shaping up, show you a couple of visuals of what the renovation efforts look like. We're hoping to right now, fingers crossed, knock on wood, that we will be reopening this branch in December of this year. So after roughly almost 3 years of being closed, that we will be reopening this branch. So I'm gonna take a moment to show you some of those pictures of what that looks like and kind of what we're gonna be doing with that space. Then I wanna come back and talk a little bit more about specifically the theme of today, which is kind of how libraries can serve as agents for civic engagement. Talk about a couple of things that we're doing here, partnerships, programs that we're doing here to try to move that needle forward. So let me start here by showing you what we currently have happening at our branch. As I mentioned earlier, we're able to do this work because of the Reimagined Civic Commons initiative. It's being funded by some wonderful funders, JPB, Rockefeller, Knight, and Kresge Foundations. Put together this wonderful initiative that really centers on public spaces, our parks, our community centers, our libraries, our waterfronts. How might we leverage these assets, these civic assets, to foster engagement, equity, environmental sustainability, and economic development in our cities? So this work is happening in many cities across the country, in Memphis, Chicago, Detroit, Philadelphia, just to name a few. But I want to talk specifically about kind of how this is looking in Memphis, and specifically how this is working with Cossitt Library. I said, Cossitt has this really, really rich history. It's the city's first library, suffered from a few years of disinvestment. And so we are now in the process of reimagining this space. And this reimagining is kind of happening in 3 phases. In our courtyard space, in our once you walk inside, on the first floor, and then on the second floor. And the first floor kind of serves as our main entrance. This is the gateway into the building. And what you will see in this picture here is first off, some really wonderful shade trees, right? It provides a space for really people from all walks would like to be able to gather and sit and enjoy some shade. We got this Memphis heat, right? So you definitely need a little shade. But wonderful options of seating. This is something that wasn't there before. Where you see these seats now, there was really not just kind of all grass. And so to be able to pave half of this area and to put seats and chairs there, as well as adding, as you kind of see where my cursor is, a series of steps that bring you right into the courtyard. This did not exist before. Previously, you had to actually walk around to one side of the building or the other to get into the building. And there were some very smart people, very smart, much smarter than me, who thought, hey, it makes sense for us to be able to invite people to walk directly in to the courtyard area. Oh, so I got delivery there, sorry about that. Inside, we've got some really interesting and unique spaces. The first one is a cafe. And I'm so excited about this cafe space. It will be owned by the city, by the library system, but will be operated by local chefs. And so right now we are in the process of talking with local restaurateurs and chefs about them operating this space. And there've been some really great conversations here. When we first started this, we were thinking that the direction of this space would be much more geared towards coffee shop or donut, type of space. But the most recent conversations have been really, really interesting. One of those conversations has been around with a seasonal restaurateur, right? So this is someone who locally is sourcing all the food within a very close proximity to the city. And because they are sourcing their food locally, their menu is changing a couple of times a year. So essentially, 3 or 4 times a year, assuming that this vendor would be here, the menu would change. And that got us to thinking, hey, if the menu's gonna change a couple times a year, what might it look like for us to also change the collection or a set of the collection, right? So that even if you came in the branch, say in January, and you got a book, a really great book, and you got, say, a sandwich and something to drink, that if you came back in May or in November, what was available to you in terms of books or food would be completely different, right? As a way of kind of really engaging you to come back and see what was new. And so we're really, really excited about that space. Going to add some meeting room space, something that we didn't have before. Cossitt is one of our, it's not a very large library, but before we didn't have really any individual meeting rooms. And so we'll be having some meeting rooms that will accompany various numbers of people to be able to meet. And then we will put in an installation. We've got a couple pieces of public art. This one is really, really exciting. An installation to talk about the sit-in. So Cossitt Library, as I said before, was the site of the desegregation efforts in our city. This particular library, Cossitt, where I'm managing now, prior to the 60s, African Americans had very little access to this branch. And what happened was a group of college students from the local HBCU did a series of demonstrations and read-ins and sit-ins in this branch, and that led to the desegregation of this library system. There were some great lawyers who tried the case and led to that. And this is really exciting for me. I tell you, it really resonates with me. We think about that time as kind of being far off, but it's really not, right? I had a wonderful opportunity a few years ago to meet a number of the individuals who were part of that. And it was just a really soul-stirring moment to be able to look in the eyes of someone and say, hey, look, because of what you did when as an 18 or 19-year-old college student many, many years ago, that I now as a Black man can manage this branch. It's a really, really powerful moment for me. So I'm excited that we get to honor both the students and the activists and also the lawyers who were part of this. That takes us to the second floor. Second floor, we've got some really, really unique spaces, really three particular unique spaces. The first is this performance area. So roughly about 2,400 square feet. We work with a local vendor to configure the space in about 9 different ways, so that on any given day, it might be a performance space, it may be a corporate gathering space, it may be a space where we can show films, right? The idea was to keep this space as flexible as possible, right? So that we could meet the various needs that the community might have. This gentleman here in the picture is by the name of Lil Buck. He practices a style of hip hop dancing known as juking. And in his teenage years, he was exposed to ballet. And since that time, he has found a really interesting way of fusing those two dance styles, of the ballet, his kind of traditional ballet background with this hip hop dance style, and create this really, really interesting means of art. And we've been working with him for many years now to center him in this space. And so we're really excited that we're going to have the very first Memphis Jugging Academy based out of Cossitt Library. And we'll have a number of classes for the community to be able to come and enjoy and was performances. And so we're really, really excited about that. Second space is, and this is not new for many libraries, but we're going to put in 2 studio spaces, right? So there is an audio side and a video side. And so on the audio side, you think anything that you would need to be able to do, say a podcast, voiceover type project, right? And then on the video side, the photography side, you're thinking about, a photography project. We'll have a green screen there, and you're thinking about a YouTube video. And then all of the things that you would need to be able to create these things, will be available with your library card. And so we're going through a process now of working with the community to identify the types of equipment that they need. And they're telling us all sorts of things, laptops with creative software, certain types of cameras and camcorders that we'll be able to provide for them. And so I'm really, really excited about that. And then we've got a workshop / co-working space. Now here in Memphis, co-working is growing. It hasn't quite caught on yet, but it's growing. And I suspect that post-COVID, the demand for co-working will become even greater. And so we have a space here that we really want to use kind of in a multi-purpose way. The first way is kind of a co-working space. We want to insert ourselves into the existing co-working ecosystem, and to be able to offer many of the things that you would get at a traditional co-working space here for library patrons. And then we also want to be able to do workshop space, right? So workshops where we can do a variety of classes, and from programming and robotics to sewing and knitting. And we, upon reopening, we'll have a couple of fellows there who will be kind of spending their time working with the community in that. So what you can see in all of that is a really interesting space where there's a variety of opportunities there, right? Where there's an opportunity to bring people from lots of different backgrounds together. Now, I've talked about it, and really kind of the theme of this conversation is how libraries can serve as agents for civic engagement. And I want to talk a bit about that, and then we'll certainly get back to maybe some time of conversation. Our building has been physically closed for almost 3 years now. But that has not stopped us from piloting programs in other spaces in the immediate proximity. And that's allowed us to do a number of things, from cultivating new stakeholders to doing the type of community engagement that we think is going to be necessary for this kind of successful relaunch. At the beginning of our time together, I mentioned this Reimagined Civic Commons initiative, which this project is a part of. And the initiative has really influenced the way I work. And I think it has the potential to really and it should, I think, influence the way that we operate and the way that we look at libraries. At the heart of the initiative, and kind of rooted in the initiative, are 9 principles and 4 outcomes. And I'm not going to talk about those, but they range from design and maintenance to engagement and so much more. Of the 4 outcomes, though, civic engagement is one of them, and I want to spend some time talking about that. And when we say civic engagement, kind of what we're talking about and what we're thinking about is how we leverage libraries in a way that bring people from all backgrounds back into public life as stewards and advocates, right? Giving shape to the city's future. And I think for us, and again, we've been doing this outside. We don't have a building. We're doing this outside of a building. We're doing this in the community really right now. But we're kind of focused on really, I think, 3 areas. And the first one is, cultivating a spirit of participation that results in people joining stewardship and advocacy efforts. The second one is bolstering levels of civic engagement. We want to create opportunities. Well, I would say civic engagement. I say civic agency, actually. And in this, I think we're creating opportunities for people to work collaboratively across differences, like political ideology, faith traditions, income, geography. I think this is very, very important in our cities right now, because we're seeing, here locally, but across the country right now, just how much we are segregating ourselves along almost every category. And so to be able to create opportunities for people to come together in unique ways, I think is very, very important. And then lastly, of course, I think libraries have always done this, is creating engaged and informed voters. And so there are a number of things in each of these areas where, where we've been trying to work in various kind of partnerships and programs that we've worked on. So I want to share a few of those. I certainly don't think I have time to do all of them, but I want to share a few of those and kind of what we're doing in those areas. And I love to kind of talk about maybe how that's looking for you all, and maybe we can learn together here. So when it comes to cultivating a spirit of participation that results in people joining stewardship and advocacy efforts, here are a couple of things that we're doing right now. And I really think, and I'm going to come back very quickly, I think this first point of advocacy and kind of creating this, I really think this starts with not the programs that you do, but really who you are as a person, right? I mean, what the system, what each individual library represents. And for me, I'm a man of faith, and one of my heroes in the faith is Desmond Tutu, and he's a cleric in Africa. And in one of his most recent books, he mentions this concept of Ubuntu, which is translated as a person is a person through other persons. He goes on to say, and I quote, "We need other human beings for us to learn how to be human. For none of us come fully into the world. We would not know how to talk, to walk, to think, to eat as human beings unless we learn how to do these things from other human beings. Ubuntu is the essence of being human. It speaks of how my humanity is caught up and bound up inextricably in yours." And for me, I think that's so important. I think it's going to be impossible for us to get to this place of creating. There we go. Can y'all, let me get my screen back here. There we go, fantastic. That without kind of having that kind of, this kind of ethos, this kind of way of being as a library, that it's going to be very challenging to do that. And so for me, this goes really back to my childhood, right? I grew up in a very, very small community, a rural community in Alabama. And I have very, very vivid memories of people coming together, and certainly in times of disaster, if someone's house burned down, if their primary breadwinner passed away, it was really interesting to see the ways that which people came together, come together and cook a series of meals to help a family get through for a couple of weeks, or hold a fish fry and the proceeds go to paying bills and things of that nature. But even beyond natural disasters, there were just moments like when I was growing up, everyone didn't have access to like gas heating, right? And so many people heated their homes with fireplaces. And I remember, kind of at the end of the fall, right, beginning of the wintertime, there'd be a number of gentlemen who would get together and go into the woods and chop down wood, right? And they would just spend days chopping down wood. And then they would go back into the community and distribute that to the people who had need, widows and families who could not do that. And I think that spirit of community, it's always stuck with me. I think we very much are in many ways, who we are in the experiences of our childhood. That very much has stuck with me. And I think as I go forward as a library manager, I really want to embody that spirit. I really want this library to embody that spirit, a place where people from all walks of life are coming together, not only to just enjoy experiences together and enjoy various programs and events, but coming together to help each other in really interesting ways. So here are a couple of things that we're doing in this one. The first one is our friends group, right? And I think every library, if they're lucky, if they're blessed, will have a good friends group. And so here in Memphis, we have a kind of a central friends group that serves as a group for the entire branch, to the entire system. But then there are also friends groups at each branches, right? And so you have an option of cultivating that. And so at Cossitt, we have thought very, very diligently about the onboarding process for new friends, right? Because we don't want people to just, purchase a membership for it's very that member kind of fall off. We really want to be very intentional and thoughtful about, okay, hey, yes, you're part of this friends group. Let's take a look at your gifts and your skills and your experience and your network and figure out how you might be able to contribute to this space. And just in reorienting that, right? And really inviting people to bring their skills into this. I think I'm seeing a lot of energy around that, and we're really, really excited about it. And then kind of also along those lines, we are doing, and we have been doing, this community asset survey, right? And so this is kind of even beyond people who might want to be friends. We're just walking in. We're going and talking businesses. We're talking to neighborhood associations, and we're asking them essentially these kind of 4 questions, right? I think these and the first 2, what are your hobbies and what do you feel passionate about, really kind of help inform the types of programs that we go after, right? And it really kind of helps us understand how we might plan out a quarter, a year, a half a year, so that we're really kind of meeting the needs of the community. But these second 2 are, I think, are really, really fascinating, because we're asking people, hey, what knowledge do you already have that you might be willing to share with others? And then number 4, what might you want to learn? If you can learn any new thing, a skill, a new hobby, what might it be? And what we're seeing is that people who live very close to each other have the skills that they can share with each other. We're having, for number 3, we have people say, hey, I play the guitar every night when I come home. It's my way of de-stressing. I go in my home and I play a guitar, and it helps me kind of wind down. And then on the other side, we're seeing 4 or 5 people who say, hey, I really would love to learn how to play the guitar, right? And so now we have this kind of a platform on which we can say, hey, we can offer a public space. We can offer a space where you all can come together and do this thing, right? And in this way, the community kind of becomes co-collaborators and co-programmers. And I think that as that happens, a couple things are going to happen. Number 1, people are going to fall in love with the library in ways that they previously had not done so, right? And then number 2, I think what's going to happen is that people are going to come in contact with people that perhaps they never would have come in contact with. Now, again, we have not done this particular piece yet. We've just been doing the research. And I imagine this thing could get kind of messy, right? But I think it's worth actually giving it a shot. A couple of other things here is a community lending program. Now, we talked about these spaces that we have on the second floor, these recording spaces, and all of the various, all the resources. We're gonna have a ton of technology that we're putting here. And I know a lot of libraries will allow you to leave the branch with these things, but we won't. We're going to actually keep all of this in-house, right? So all of the laptops and the cameras and things of that nature, you can only use it while you're in the library. But we recognize that there are a number of nonprofit organizations and community-based organizations who could who could get access to, they could really benefit them to use this equipment. And so what we've done is piloted a program, essentially saying, hey, we will loan this equipment to you with your library card. We catalog this information. We will loan this to you and allow you to use this for a period of time to grow your business. If you want to teach a class with these things, if you want to go and do something with these things, you're more than welcome to do that. We'll work out the liability and all those things. Of course, we got to do that. And what we would ask in exchange of that is that you would come back and display some of the work that you've done, as you would come back and teach a one-on-one class in some sort of way. And so essentially what we create is, again, a sense of community, a sense of us using our resources to help each other in some sort of way. Two other things, these next two things are going to be around local institutions. And so Citizens of Cossitt is being done in conjunction with the University of Memphis, which is not too far from us. Their humanities department, the person who runs that department, actually was given a fellowship to be able to spend a 1 year at Cossitt doing this project. I'd be happy to send you more about that a little bit later, doing research about the various ways in which people have used the library. But then kind of one of the intended outcomes is to go kind of beyond that work and to provide people, just everyday patrons, with the framework, resources, and digital space to be able to come producers so they can do their own exhibitions. And we're really, really excited about that one. And then the second one is a class happening at Christopher University, not too far down the street. It's English 355, which is talks about the ways in which Civic Commons intertwine with Jane Austen's work on the Civic Commons. So I'm really excited about that. The second area is increasing civic agency. We've got a few things that we've done there. And kind of the main thing is this gathering that we call Civic Saturday. Not sure if you've ever heard of Civic Saturday before, but it's a wonderful event started by a group in Seattle called Citizen University. Eric Liu is a person that I greatly admire. But Civic Saturday brings people from all walks of life together to talk about what does it mean to be a citizen? How do we show up in our communities? How do we take our yearnings, the things that we hope to see happen in our community, and how do we move these things forward? And since last summer, we've been hosting these, since we don't have a physical branch. We were hosting these in other branches and universities. This was, of course, pre-COVID. We've now moved that online. But this has been a wonderful way of gathering people together to talk, and through song and poetry and a conversation, we talk about all these beautiful ways in which we show up together. And then the second one is this program that we're getting off the ground now called Sites for Makers. We have a hustle, a grind culture in this city, right? People are so talented. And if you go to any particular, say a farmer's market, you will generally see people who are, selling a variety of things, of soaps and lotions and canned goods and all sorts of things. And in talking with these individuals, we discovered that many of them did not have a functioning e-commerce website. There was no really way for them to sell their goods and their merchandise. And so we went to the makers of WordPress, which is one of the really kind of easiest e-commerce and blogging platforms that is out there. It's very easy to make a website with WordPress. And we talked to them about what we want to do. And they gave us 50 licenses of their flagship e-commerce software and said, hey, we would love for you to go back and help people get their business off the ground. And so we recognized that we now had a group of individuals who needed to get a website. We had the software, but we didn't have the technical expertise. And so then we went to some of the major corporations in the area and said, hey, we've got these group of people who need a website, and we've got the software. Would individuals from your IT department, from your e-commerce department, be willing to spend a little bit of time with these individuals to help them get their website off the ground? And what we're seeing right now, and we're still going through this process, is many, many individuals who said, yes, I will absolutely donate or volunteer 10 hours of my time, 15 hours of my time to help people with this. And so I think it's a very, very wonderful way of creating this sort of environment that we're looking for. And then lastly, we talk about creating engaged and informed voters. And I'll wrap up with this. One of the most fun things that we have done here recently is this installation called Swing Vote. We purchased this from a company in Dallas. And you can essentially see it's made up of two pieces. The first one is the swing. The top says, I'm voting. And we take this thing to various parts throughout the city. But the second piece there is this little A-frame stand. And at the bottom of that stand is a QR code. Someone within our library system, Kevin Dixon, who kind of does most of our digital initiatives and serves as our online library manager, put together this wonderful informed voter webpage on our website. And it tells you kind of all of the people who are running for office. It gives you access to their Facebook page, their Twitter page, their personal web page. It's a really, really interesting way of educating people about, who's going to be running and kind of what they are standing for. And so we have, this was again before COVID, we kind of embarked on a mission of taking this swing to as many places as we can. So you can see right here on the left, we took it to the riverfront, took it to FedEx Forum for a major event. And we just asked people, hey, are you registered to vote? Do you know who's running for in this particular election? And it's been really, really great to help people in that way. So I'm going to stop there, Jeffrey. I think I've probably said enough there, and see if there are any questions and how you might want to proceed.
Well, thank you. I could not be happier for having asked you to be the inaugural speaker of this event. That was absolutely phenomenal. Thank you. And there's been I don't know if you've noticed, or actually even if you can see the chat, but there's been a lot of chatter already. So I'm sure we'll have lots of questions.
Oh, fantastic.
We have one, you can either, so for the audience, you can either ask your question in the chat, or there's also a Q&A option that should be on your screen as well. So we have one question in Q&A that I'll start with. The question is, with your library being physically closed for 3 years, what lessons have you learned about staying engaged with your community and preparing them for your reopening? So many libraries are in this situation right now.
Yeah, I think it was really great for us to be closed for this period of time, because our branch, when we were open, I think I could probably kind of count on one hand kind of the demographic and the type of patrons who were coming through the branch. And we recognized even before we closed the branch that we needed to reach different audiences. We needed to really find ways to meet various needs. And in some cases, we had to find a way to be relevant for people. There were some individuals who were within a walking distance of us who said, hey, I have no need for a library. I've got Wi-Fi, I've got a laptop, I've got, ebook reader. I don't need to even come to your library, right? And so with the benefit of being close, it kind of forced us to get out in the community. And so what that looked like for us was a couple of things. Number one, we showed up at every farmer's market that would take us. And we just put a booth up, and we had games and coloring sheets for kids. We were showing our plans and telling people about, hey, this is what's coming. Here's how you can get involved. And then also, I didn't have a picture. I'll send it to you. We were very, very blessed. Our friends group actually paid for us to do a pop-up library inside a food hall. So this is kind of a food hall that has roughly 7-8 different restaurants. And they gave us a very small, about 200 square feet space. We were able to put a pop-up library there and actually do some kind of remote circulation while also telling people about what was coming, right? And I think, Jeffrey, that really helped us. It really helped us kind of, again, get in the face of people who would have never come to the branch anyway. And so it really kind of helped us talk to them and kind of understand their needs. It really helped to kind of inform us about the ways in which we should pivot, but also helped us kind of reintroduce ourselves. Because there were many times when people said, hey, I didn't even know there was a library downtown, right? And so it was good in that way.
Do you, in terms of the physical renovation of the building, were there changes that you made as a result of COVID? Were you able to identify sort of post-COVID environments and make some changes so that you were ready when you reopened?
No, so our renovation efforts are still kind of underway, and we are, kind of, we were at the building just a few days ago, and I mean, walls are just now kind of going up, right, and wiring is just now being run, but I do imagine that there will be, and a lot of that is kind of a challenge at this point to even, when you get so far in construction. There are so many changes you can actually make, right?
Right.
Financially. But I think, in talking with the other branches that are open, one thing that I think we will have to think about, and again, I mentioned this kind of earlier, is I do think there's going to be an increased demand for co-working spaces. And we here just recently made that space a little bit bigger than what it was going to initially be. But I think it's going to actually kind of force us to think about how we become a little bit more robust with that. I mean, we're kind of talking about right now, what might it look like for us to offer some sort of lockable storage? What might it look like for us to offer mail service for individuals, without putting too much of a burden on your current staff. But I think that's probably, if I could identify kind of one particular thing, I think that's gonna be it for us.
We have another question in the Q&A. What type of evaluation and metrics will you use to measure the civic engagement outcomes that you have identified?
Oh, wonderful question. So we do actually have and I'll share this with you when the call ends, Jeffrey. You can share it with your team. We do actually kind of have a matrix of kind of each of these areas and kind of how this looks like for us. And then for us then with each event that we do, I think we're designing our programs really, and this is not the totality, the total of our programs, but we really think that of our 18 branches, we have a strong opportunity to kind of position ourselves as a civic hub, right? And so we know that the way that we design our programs need to kind of come from that lens, right? And so I think the first thing is that, number one, are we designing the types of programs that are advancing these hopes and goals, right? And then number two, kind of, okay, what impact are we seeing from this? Like, can we track an increase in the number of friends that have joined? Can we track the number of people that have volunteered to be a part of some sort of way? Another thing that I can share with you is, we have this really wonderful tool, and I'll put it in the chat, this kind of a ladder of civic engagement. That's a wonderful way of getting people involved. Essentially, it's kind of a series of steps, right? So the first step is, hey, like us on Facebook, right? Or a social media channel. Step number two, come to a program, right? Step number three, come back to the program. Step number four, come to the program and bring a friend. Step number five, get here a little early and help us set up, right? And so you've got these kind of gradual steps of ways in which you can engage people and kind of keep them locked. And kind of, you would imagine at the top of this ladder is that you've got individuals who are taking on a pretty robust amount of programming and things that they are passionate about. Maybe they're passionate about fitness. They say, hey, I will organize, twice a month, I'll organize a yoga on this day and a Zumba on that day, right? And again, I think this is a little bit different than the way that we operate right now. I think we think about our programming. Much of that is, our staff does that, or we have our partners that do that. I think there's an opportunity in a way that's not exploitative, but in a way that kind of invites people. And what we've already seen is people say, hey, I would love to do this. I would love to do this, right? I have no problem volunteering once a month to teach someone how to get their finances in check. I have no problem once a month teaching someone how, some basics of code, right? And I think it presents a wonderful opportunity to kind of create a sense of engagement and stewardship that helps people see the library in new and exciting ways.
Thank you. We have some children's librarians with us as well, and we have a question here related to younger members. What methods do you use to attract younger members of your community? They're very tech savvy, and it's hard to reach them using traditional methods of outreach. So what have you found to be successful?
Yeah, and again, this is I'm everything that I'm giving you, it has been with a closed building, so we have not had access to anything. But I will say, and I think for us, partnerships is really where it's been. It's the ability to find other organizations that we can partner with. One of the most fun events that we did, we partnered with a bicycle collective. This is kind of a group of people that they fix their own bikes, and they sell bikes for a small cost to fund their operations. And we did an event with them called Bicycle Storytime. We found all of the books that we had that were about kids riding bikes, and we invited the collective to bring some bikes, and we invited the students to bring bikes. And so we met on the back courtyard of our library, which is kind of the one space that we have to be able to do some programming. And we had story time when we read all these books about kids, riding their bikes for the first time. And then we kind of created a space for kids to be able to go out and ride their bikes. And it was just such a fun thing to do, man. I mean, kids just really, really enjoyed themselves. The second thing, and this one's much newer. I just did this yesterday. I'm gonna put it in the chat, and I think you should absolutely give this a shot. Let me pull it up real quick. But it's an interactive, kind of immersive learning experience called Vote by Design. It was founded by a group of professors and designers at Stanford University to kind of encourage and kind of inform first-gen voters. And I ran the very first program yesterday with a group of teenagers. And it's just amazing. And we did it all online, did it all virtually. And we asked them, hey, how well do you know the job of the president? Like, what would you expect the president to do? And it's about an hour and a half experience, and anyone can volunteer. Anyone can sign up for this. There are instructional tutoring sessions happening, I think, next month, and I'll be more than happy to connect you with the organizers. It's a wonderful way to get them involved, and you begin to kind of hear, Jeffrey, the ideas that this next generation has. I mean, some of the things that 17-year-old students were telling me yesterday was absolutely blowing my mind, right? And so that's, I think, something that I'm going to work to, and I think as a branch, we're going to work to continue to do over the next few months as we get closer to the election. And then I would say also the Civic Saturday gatherings, again, present a wonderful way to engage college students in particular. You've got this blend of art and music and conversation in a way that really engages them.
Thank you. I probably should have told you at the start of this that I don't know how much you know about New Jersey in the pandemic, but we're under a state mandate. We're only allowed to have up to 25% capacity in our buildings at the moment.
Yep.
And a lot of that is mostly things like curbside and computer access. So we're not doing any live programming, so to speak, but we're doing a lot of online programming. And it sounds like we're having some similar experiences. Even though we're physically closed, I feel like we've never been busier at the moment. And I think most of us are exhausted, but because it's forced us to rethink how we're reaching audiences. And it's been, I think, a good thing to a certain degree, because it has forced us to rethink how we're providing services and support.
Yeah, it's the same here. We're not doing any in-person programming at all right now. Our branches, I think we may be at maybe 40% capacity right now. But for us, having been closed, really a year and a half, 2 years, even before it hit, we were already kind of used to, not operating in a building, but not being, kind of in close proximity to people has been the adjustment for us. And so what we have really, and I think as a system, and I'm so thankful for our leadership here, is that, we've tried to find ways in which, we can really complement each other as a system, so that we're not all doing kind of the same sort of thing. And kind of what's happening now across our system is this set of really vibrant sorts of programs. And some of this stuff, it's experimental, right? There's some programs that we're doing and, we're seeing quite a few people come, and there's some programs that it's just, they just kind of fall flat, and Zoom fatigue is real, right? And, people that are on Zoom all day, every day, you're then expecting them to come to a program, in the evening or on the weekends, and people are like, man, I'm exhausted, right? And so trying to find different ways to approach that is really, really key right now.
We have some more questions. I want to make sure to get, I'm getting to the audience questions. I am trying to keep up with comments in chat and also in Q&A, so I'll apologize. I'm sure I'm missing some.
No problem.
We have this question. How does your library fund your initiatives, these initiatives? Does it acquire funding through community events or from backers, stakeholders, donors, and trustees?
Yeah, so the project itself, the renovation effort itself, it has a variety of funding sources. That's coming at a local, a state, and a national level. The programs that I've spoken of right now, most of these programs have been, some of them have been pretty really free to really pull off, right? The Civic Saturday event was interesting because what happened was I did 2 of them on university campuses, and we just got all these really rich stories in the ways in which college students were being kind of transformed and really empowered. And we actually got another one coming up in a couple of weeks here. And as I was reporting that to our library director, said, hey, why don't you talk to the foundation about doing this at every one of our branches? And I did talk to them about it, and they gave me a grant. They gave me a $7,000 grant to be able to host these at every branch. Now, at the time, that was paying for, refreshments and an artist and a poet and those sorts of things. Now that we are in COVID, we're not having to be in a physical space. We're not having to have refreshments. So that cost has come way down, right? Again, a lot of this is just trying to figure out how can we be creative? What tools do we have that we can use? And I will say, the thing that I used yesterday in the Vote by Design piece was a piece of software called Nearpod. And I don't know if y'all are familiar with Nearpod, if you ever used Nearpod before, but Nearpod is, you can sign up for free. It is a wonderful way to create interactive experiences. And I think particularly for children and youth, those of you who are doing programs, children and youth, you should absolutely look at Nearpod. It's a wonderful way to incorporate quizzes and moments of interaction and breakout spaces in a way that really, really engages young people in a new and kind of exciting and refreshing way.
This question, our next question, congratulations on creating such an inclusive, visionary community resource. In terms of programming, would you consider creating a future librarians as civic agents pipeline by doing K-12 outreach to increase the opportunity for marginalized communities to gain exposure to and demystify how libraries work, what they offer, and indirectly increase opportunities to raise general literacy?
My goodness. I'd say I have never thought about that, but I think someone should run with that, right? You would think that like on a state level or a national level that someone would be doing, that's a phenomenal idea.
It's a great idea. It's a great idea to get more individuals involved in our profession and get them exciid.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely going to take that to our director and kind of see, right? And I think even as we, like I do a lot of volunteer work. The library gives us a lot of kind of leeway in being able to do things that we think bring meaning to us. And so I volunteer with a group of Black male students once a week, and we did this career day there, which is all Black men. We're just going to bring doctors and lawyers and dentists and all sorts of things like that, right? And for some of those young men, it was the first time that they'd ever seen that. And so and even now when I speak at schools, people say, "You're librarian? You what?" It's like I don't think anyone's ever kind of mentioned to them that that's a career path. So I really love that idea.
Can you share with us what kind of training or instruction programs you have in place to support all of the amazing tech that you're making available? And that's training for patrons or staff?
So we're working through that right now, actually. That is kind of one of the key things that I've got to figure out, we've got to figure out right now, is what that training looks like, both at the staff level and then at the patron level. At the staff level, you know, we've got a couple of positions, open positions. And so I think that we're going to be looking for people that kind of already have that skill set, you know, and can kind of help us with that. But we're also very, very fortunate at our central library, our main Benjamin L. Hooks library. We have a space, and I will drop this in the chat as well, that is called Cloud 901. This is a very, very interactive space for teens. It's a learning lab that has a maker space and a recording studio, many of the things that I already told you, but they're just for teens. And there's a wonderful staff there, very, very skilled and experienced, and they have offered a variety of help and support for us. And so we're going to be leaning very heavily on kind of that, again, that experience that's already within the branch to help us with that. And then again, we think about other, you know, kind of partnerships, you know, since we already kind of have these robust relationships with universities, thinking about how we might leverage college students to help with that as well.
Thank you. And I think this might be our last question, and hopefully this is an easy one. Can you tell us a bit more about your library? How many staff do you have? What's the population that it serves? How many locations do you have throughout the city?
Yeah, so we have, and I just looks like Vanessa said that she couldn't see what I was typing. I'm sorry about that, Vanessa. I thought that Jeffrey, are you able to see the things that I
am. I'm not sure why, Vanessa. Okay. We can, we'll see what we can do about getting a transcript out to the participants.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, yeah, so we, I'll put our, oh, wow. Matthew says he's not seeing it either.
Oh, no, I see.
So I have it on all panel. Maybe I need to do all. Okay, I think I need to do all panelists and attendees. I think maybe that's the issue. Let me do this actually and see.
Well, I saw it. I had no problem.
Yeah, I think maybe. Okay, yeah, I think maybe everything that I was sending out before was just kind of all. It was just me and you, and it wasn't the attendee. So I will send out, I'll repost those links, or I'll send them to you, Jeffrey, if there's a place for me to get them to you.
We'll make sure that we get it. We get them all.
Okay. But yeah, so our website is Memphis, and I'll put this here. You can, memphislibrary.org, has about. I will also drop in I'm sure the Cloud 901 space is something that people would be very interested in. So let me drop that here.
So see, I mentioned at the beginning that this was the first time that we had done this, and we were bound to make some mistakes. So
yeah, I should have caught that. I don't know why I didn't catch that. So let's Cloud 901. I'll drop that in there. So our library has 18 branches, and of course we serve Memphis, Tennessee, Memphis metropolitan area. Got quite a few people. I don't have the exact numbers that we serve here on me, but I'm more than happy to get that for you, send that your way. So there is our Cloud 901 team space, which is very, very interesting. This is the Vote by Design. I really, really would highly recommend if you're looking to engage teens, college students in this voting process right now, that you would go to Vote by Design and sign up. So they've got some free training sessions coming up. It's a very, very easy process to be able to learn how to do. I'm more than happy to help you with that. And then lastly, I will drop in, Jeffrey, I mentioned actually two other things very quickly. The first one was Nearpod, which is this really fun, wonderful kind of engagement tool. And then I will put in the Civic Commons website as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
So one last question,
yep.
Then you go. We have a question in Q&A. What are some ways that libraries can build partnerships with local hospitals?
Oh, wow. I have not ventured into that territory. And so I don't think I could give you a, I don't think I could give you a clear area in that. What I can say, you know, the partnerships that we have done with universities, with other organizations, nonprofit organizations here, is that we've always tried to go in looking at the work that they're already doing and really trying to find ways for us to be able to complement that work. When we went to the universities, we knew that both of the universities that we went to had a keen interest in wanting students to be engaged in their communities. And they were doing things at the university level to achieve that, but they really were looking for partners to help them with that as well. And so that was a natural fit for us, right? When we went to the nonprofit organizations, we went to one particular organization that does training and development for up and coming entrepreneurs, particularly Black entrepreneurs. And we knew that one of the things that could really help them was access to equipment, right? And so we said, hey, let us know what you need. You know, they want to do VR things. They've got a lot of creative people there. And so, you know, we said, okay, we will step in kind of and try to fill that need for you. So I haven't done anything with hospitals before, but I think you can never really go wrong in trying to serve an existing need that an organization has.
Thank you. Well, Shamichael, this has been very informative and also very inspirational. I think you have a number of audience members here who are now eager to come visit Memphis and taste some of that barbecue, right?
Yeah.
So with that, I'll also extend an invitation to you to come to Jersey City or come visit our library if you're ever in the region, if we're ever allowed to travel again in the near future. This has been a real joy, and thank you for being our first speaker. Good luck with all you're doing, and we'll be watching you.
Thank you so much. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you too. Take care.
All right.
Bye.